So we are going to start the ninth chapter, and the ninth chapter is kind of a supplement on the eighth chapter. In the eighth chapter, Bhagavan mentioned how to meditate on him, and therefore he mentioned that you have to meditate on me with Omkara Upasana, Omkara Ucharana, then Brahma Upasana, and how to do it. And you have to remember and meditate on me by doing Ucharana of Omkara, but by understanding that I'm verily Akshara Brahma. And therefore, he gives you certain techniques as to how you need to meditate on him. And he also clarifies that this process of meditation, which will be classified under Upasana. Bhagavan clarifies that by doing this, what happens to you is that instead of going in the Dakshinayana Marga, which is something which is meant for the complete karmakandis, those who are all time busy with different kinds of activities without any opening for connecting with the spiritual principles. They also do a lot of rituals and pujas, but they don't try to approach these truths in a more subtle manner, as a result of which they sort of go to the downward movement after death. So they sort of go to the Swargaloka or heavenly pleasure, and then they have to come back. The philosophical implication of it, if we just leave out the whole ritual, because nobody is doing those karma kandas these days, right? So we have to make sense of what Bhagavad Gita says, as Sri Aurobindo very beautifully mentions, that the insight in Bhagavad Gita, so also Ramakrishna used to say, the insights of Bhagavad Gita is more important than scholarly or certain sectarian interpretations of it. So we are doing Madhusudana Tika and Sankara Tika, but we need to extract what we study to apply to our conditions. So what is the implication? Nobody is doing Karma Kanda. Nobody is bothered to go to Swarga. Everybody is very happy doing sincere. So how do we make sense of it? The insight therein is that whatever activities you do without a larger vision of the self and what is the spiritual reality with which you're connecting by these activities, if it's just a short-term thing, it's just an external activity, then that punaravartana is very much comparable with a sense of boredom and depression you will experience. Because, like, for example, you want to have a house, you construct the house, then you are back to normal. Same philosophical question, spiritual question will haunt you. So then what? You wanted a car, okay, you have a car. Then again, that loneliness comes back to you again and again. And therefore, he says that at least when you have a deeper spiritual aspiration which connects you to that beyond. And what is that beyond? That you are at least doing the meditation. And that is a path which sort of takes you to a level of internal stability and free from lots of distractions and returning to the same kind of stalemate in a existential plane. At a subjective plane, we are thinking about your own life. I'm just removing the theological interpretations. I'm trying to make sense of it in our everyday life. What does it mean? And ultimate freedom happens when you truly discover who you are, which is not upasana, which is not about meditation, which is not about having these rules of the game, like I'll get up early in the morning and I want to meditate for 2 hours. I want to go to the gym for half an hour. These are one set of tactics. But the highest thing is that irrespective of whether you are busy with work whole day or you're meditating for 2 hours, you have that deeper inner connectivity, which is premised on self-understanding. And that self-understanding, once you have reached there, there is no return to that level of boredom or restlessness, which you can compare with this life. This life is all about restlessness, boredom, anxiety, confusion. These things are permanent. What is temporary? You are happy with whatever, like you get a chocolate, you are happy, the baby is happy for a while. Chocolate is over, the baby is bored again. You give it a doll, the baby will play for a while and throw it and then again get bored. That is the mind of the child. And if you look at it, this punaravartana, there is of course the theological thing is there that you will be reborn and ultimate, But if you look at your own particular lifespan, there's so many rebirths happening in the sense that you are trying to achieve something, you're starting a particular thing. The whole thing is like a life cycle, right? If any project or anything, any dream you want to fulfill, that cycle is over and you back to the same thing. You again start from the scratch. And what sort of liberates is self understanding of self knowledge. That is what Bhagavan is taking Arjuna to in the ninth chapter. In eighth chapter, he mentioned that you can go through this upasana, you'll go to the Brahmaloka. In the Brahmaloka, you'll be there for in not an indefinite period of time, definite but a long period of time, for one kalpa. And once you are there for one kalpa, then everything kind of collapses. It's like 1000 cycles of Chatur Yugas. And then everything collapses because that Ratri starts and then recreation will happen and you get liberated. You are kind of, ejected out of Brahmaloka, you get liberation. That means you are in a state of complete stability, but not self knowledge. That's a complete stability, a blissful stability where you have no questions, whatever you want is fulfilled, but you are still stuck in a limited existence for a certain period of time. But Swargaloka is very temporary, and by the moment you are watching yourself, that phase is over, you are back. Like any Sapeksha Ananda, you want to have a house, you want to have a car, you want to have a chocolate, you want to have a friendship, you want to go to the club or a hotel. When your happiness is kind of dependent on some external object of pleasure, there is something external who sort of controls that thing in you. You understand that that cannot be permanently stable, and that you'll fall again to the same life that we have here. Similarly, now in the ninth chapter, this is an interesting chapter. So Brahman or Jnana or Atma, remember, there are two words you have to remember in Vedanta. But even if you don't want to get into Vedanta, just remember these two words. One is Dhyeya, the other one is Dheya. Dheya is what? Which is the object of dhyana, the object of meditation, the goal of your meditation. So you want to sit and do meditation on Brahman. That is Dheya Brahma. Now to reach Dheya Brahma, you need Upasana. So if you look at Ganesha Atharvashirsha or Devi Atharvashirsha, the commentators always make it clear this is not in contradiction with Vedantic philosophy of monism. Then why name and form? They would say that, look here, in order for dhyana, you need a name and a form. And therefore, here we are doing meditation on Devi as Brahman. We are doing meditation on Sri Ganesh. In Ganesha Atharvashirsha commentary, it's very clearly mentioned that Brahman is Nirupadhika. Nirupadhika means without names and forms, no titles. But if you want to have a title, that is necessary if you want to meditate on it. And in Vedanta, there is another word called Adhyaropa Apavada. First, you do some Adhyaropana. You do a bit of superimposition. Like the mother imposes the finger on that, like 1 or 2 or 3, right? Then these numbers, they imposes 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger. That is Adhyaropa Apavada. Later on, it's removed. So Vedanta always does Adhyaropa Apavada. The Upasana is part of that whole prakriya of trying to see. There is something called Sthula Arundhati Darshana Nyaya. What is that? Or there is something called Sakha Chandra Nyaya. You know what? The mother is holding a baby, and the baby is heard, he's saying, Uri Chanda Mama. And then maybe this is not a full moon night. This is maybe, very thin moon, maybe, that particular 6th or 7th day, or maybe earlier day, 4th or 5th day. So it's a very thin moon which is available. And mother has to show it to the child. How does the mother show it? If it's the, it's the Shukla Paksha, maybe Ditya, Tritiya Chand is actually very thin, and it appears later on and lightly later in the evening. The mother first shows a certain tree nearby to the baby. It shows, please, why don't you look at that tree? The baby says, what are you trying to show? No, I'm showing you the moon. The baby says, but Mama, this is a tree. This is the back of a house. The mom says, yes, look at it. Yes. The baby looks at it. Can you see that top branch? The baby says, yes, I can see the top branch. Then the mother says, okay, now just look at in between these two branches. Do you see a white line over there, which is semicircular? The baby smiles and happy says, yeah, yeah, I see there's some white line. And it's very brilliant. It's a luminous line. The mom says, that is the moon. Now, why isn't circular? Why isn't full? Now, it's going to be full on the full moon night. We have to wait for another 8, 9, 10 days. So that is the moon. That is Sakha Chandra Nyaya. Because it's not always easy to show where is the Brahman for a mind which is not very evolved. Similarly, there is another thing called Sthula Arundhati Darshanya. What is Arundhati Nakshatra is very difficult to see. It's very tiny, it's very distant, and it flickers at a long distance. So then how do you see it? You first look at the polar star and Saptarshi Mandala. And this is a ritual where husband and wife are taken to look at the sky, and then they are directed to have a look at the Arundhati. And this is a very spiritual thing, actually. Nobody comments on it, but look at the significance of why they're showing it. So they'll first show you the polar star and look at the Saptarshi Mandal, the 7 stars. Then they will show you, can you just look a little up over the polar star, the Dhruvatara, and you say, yeah, that is Arundhati, which is very, very shukshma. It's very subtle, very tiny, very difficult to locate in the sky without the benefit of this Saptarshi Mandala or the polar star. Now look at the marriage. The marriage event is like the polar star, and the house and car and friends and everything, they are like the Saptarshi Mandala. But the goal of marriage is to be together. It might look very insignificant, it's for dharma. And that Arundhati, that Sukshma thing, the insight you require to have a long-standing and a successful relationship is in fact to be able to see together the tiniest, the subtlest of the truths in life. If you can share that as husband and wife, then that relationship is more likely to be successful and spiritually balanced. And therefore, they show you the Arundhati Nakshatra. I mean, this is just my take on it, but the purpose of it is that the process of developing the eyesight, the insight, and the capacity to focus our attention on Sukshma, what is Gneya Pradartha, you require sharpness of intelligence and analytical ability. And Bhagavan goes slowly. In chapter 6, he mentioned about different techniques of meditation. How to sit, how to do pranayama, how to meditate, how the Indriya Nigraha happens. He gave you all those details. Then 7, he now mentioned about himself. The mystery about what is creation and who is the creator. And that there is Paraprakriti, Aparaprakriti, and that everything that has come out of him, this is how it is. And then in 8th chapter, we started with telling you about what is Brahma, what is Adhibhuta, what is Adhijagya, what is Adhidaiva, so that you are able to meditate on him, right? And you are able to meditate on him. And then now he's saying, now I'm going to tell you even something subtler, like Sthula Arundhati Nyaya. He is now going to introduce the students to a subtlest thing called the Brahman, through knowledge which you can get it. And with Jnana and Vijnana. Vijnana is the details about it. As Ramakrishna used to say, Jnana is about knowing, using that dry wood to make khichdi and have it when you are hungry. So Vijnana is about the detailed understanding, the details about this whole thing. I say there is Brahma, know it. Well, how do I know it? Tattvamasi Vakya. Meditate on it. It's very easy. Does it make any sense if you say, okay, I am Brahmasmi? It doesn't take you anywhere. So therefore, in this chapter, Bhagavan is now going to tell in detail about who he is and how to know him, not how to meditate on him. That we have completed that journey in chapter 8. Okay, so now let us look at how this whole thing goes in the 9th chapter. There is a brief introduction in Sankara Tika, but Madhusudana sort of gives a little more beautiful detailed Tika. Let's start with this. Astame Nadi Dvarena Dharana Yogaha Sagunaha Uktaha. So in the 8th chapter, Bhagavan dealt with what? That how to sort of work on your nerves, the nadis, your this whole thing, the energies. Ida Pingala Sushramna, you do meditation, right? And then his Nadi Dvarana Dharana Yoga, and then you will meditate. That Yoga Dharana you will do. Shaguna Ukta, so you will meditate on the Shaguna Brahma, Omkar Iti Anena, you Vasudevam Sarvam Iti. That you basically do meditation. Tasya cha phalam, and what is that phala? That is Brahma Loka Prapti. Understand, that is not Brahma Jnana Prapti. Brahma Loka is a kind, let's imagine, if we want to remove theology, this is essentially, or I can say that it's a psychophysical stabilization of your meditative mind at an extremely subtle state where you achieve complete peace, like in case of yoga. That is almost certain to take you to the next stage, but it takes a long time. You cannot get liberation. You don't get enlightenment immediately. What you get is a mind which is extremely disciplined. You have quietened it. That is one secular, rational interpretation of it. If you don't believe in Punarjanma or anything, of course, our texts say it. Without Punarjanma, we will not be able to explain a lot of things. But if you want to make sense of it here and now, only during this life, what he's saying is the meditation takes you to an extremely subtle psychophysical existence where you almost become stable. You might fall down if there are desires, but you are very stable. But till the body falls, you are stuck there. You don't get enlightenment. Enlightenment requires understanding. It requires jnana, not dhyana. And that is what Bhagavan says. Saguna uktaha. Tasya ta phalam Agni Archyadi Kramena. So you go to that Agni Loka and Archi Marg, right? Agni Archiradi Kramena Kalantare. You have that Kalpantara. You have for a long time stuck in Brahmaloka Kalantare. Brahma Prati Lakshana. You will get Brahmatva Prati, that is liberation. Evam Anabritti Rupam Nirdishtam. Anabritti means no abritti. What is abritti? Punarjanma. So you shall not be reborn. You are being released from the cycle of ignorant reappearances on earth to be struck by moments of happiness and moments of pain, confusion, anxiety. That is what life cycle is all about. So you will get anabriti. That means you shall not come back if you do saguna upasana and meditation. Tatra anena eva prakarena moksha prapti phalam. So in that chapter 8, that is the only technique which Bhagavan describes and elaborates. And now, adhigamati na anyatha iti tad asankya. But somebody might have a doubt. So, sir, you are basically saying that is the only way to get liberation. So I should do saguna upasana. That's all we are saying. And then I have to get stuck for a long time. And when I'm kind of free from that state, okay, and when I'm free from that state, then I'll get released. That is all you have told me. Bhagavan says no. Bhagavan says no. And look at Madhusudana Saraswati, who sort of elaborates it in a little more beautiful fashion. Purvadhyaye mudhanya nadi dvarakena. You meditate in the heart center and you try to raise the energy levels from your Muladhara till the Agnya Chakra and Sahasrara, all those things. Hridaya Kantha Bhru Madhyadi Dharana Sahitena. Because you have to do this upasana, but with the benefit of dharana, with the benefit of yoga. Only bhakti will not take you. So you have to do yoga plus Isharapana Buddhi or Shaguna Upasana together. Sahitena Sarvendriya Dwara Sanyama Gunakena. So all these gates, Nabadware Pure Dehi, these 9 gates we have, you control them. You shut them. That means disconnect from the external world of different temptations, attractions, distractions. By dissociating yourself, yogena, by connecting with Bhagavan through upasana, Sachaya Utkramana Utkranta Pranasya. And then a person sort of happily on his own, that is the ideal example Bhagavan had said, right? If a person on his own sort of abandons his body meditating on me, those who cannot do it, they continuously do that upasana day and night. So nitya saha satatam, that is the advice he gave. Because you are not in control of your death, you have to do it anantarena and dirghakalatvena, for a long time and without interruption. You should do it because you don't know when you might go. That is the advice he had given. So swechya utkranta pranasya archiradi margena, the person who dies thus, brahmaloka prayatasya, he goes to brahmaloka, that dead person. Tatra samyak jnanodayana, and there he will have samyak, comprehensive emergence of self-knowledge. Because he's in Brahmaloka, there is no distraction. He's able to realize himself after some time. Udayana kalpante. You have that kalpantara, 1000 chaturyugas. There is kalpantara. Parabrahma prapti lakshana. Then he gets that ultimate Brahma prapti. Krama muktihi vyakhyata. What is this? Is gradual liberation. That means you don't get self-knowledge, which is sadhya mukti, here and now. That doesn't happen here. Because it's upasana, it takes longer period. Tatra sa anena eva prakarana muktihi labhyate na anyatha ityasankhya. Whether that's the only way to get liberation, there are no other ways. Therefore, he is now reminding Madhusudana Saraswati that in the verse number 14, in the 8th chapter, Bhagavan has said, Ananya chetaha satadam yomang smarati nityasah tasyaham sulava partha. He had mentioned that a person who, without any distraction, who doesn't deviate from me, the ultimate divine principle, he sort of is established in that satatam, right? Satatam is nairantyarena. And smarati nityasa dirghakalatvena. For a long time he does it. Tasyaham sullava partha. For him I am easily available. That is what is elaborating in this 9th chapter. He's saying, Ityadina bhagavat tattva vijnanat. So if you get what is that Bhagavat Tattva, what is that divinity, what is that Parameshwara, what is that Brahman, if a person gets the jnana of it, he doesn't have to do long meditations. Moksha praptihi avihita. And then he will get, Bhagavan has clarified that the guys who get sadhya jnana, they don't have to go through this long journey of going to Brahmaloka, getting stuck there in a traffic jam for a long time. No. They don't have to do it. They get liberation here and now. There is no utkramana. They neither go to Swarga nor go to Brahmaloka. No Dakshinayana or Uttarayana for the Jnana Margi. He'll get liberation here and now. So he's saying Tatra cha ananya bhakti asadharana hetuhu. So the extraordinary reason or cause for that getting that liberation, hetu ityuktam purusha sapara partha bhaktya labhyas tvananya. So he had mentioned that Purusha that I am. Do you know how to, and who is that Purusha? Kabim Puranam, right? And he's mentioned that who controls this whole world. And that Anadi, that Avinashwara, Sarva Vidyamana and Sarva Saktimana, Sarvagya. That Ishvara you will get. How do you get it? Purusha Saparapartha Bhaktya Labhyas Tvananya. You can get it through deep love, deep meditation and jnana. That he has already mentioned. Iti tatra purvakta yoga dharana purvaka prana utkramana archiradi marga gamana kala bilambadi klesham antarena eva sakhyat moksha praptaye bhagavat tattvasya gatihi ukta. So one is the longest path, where what are the cases, what are the difficulties and challenges? One is that you have to have a lot of patience. First thing, you will do a lot of meditation, you will do nishkama karma, you will do a lot of meditation, and then you are stuck in this Brahmaloka for a long time, and then you will get liberation. So it's a very long, time-consuming process. But remember, that's the only way for Madhyama sadhakas who do not have enough vairagya to be able to do jnana charcha. So he's saying Visarana Jnapanaya. Therefore, Bhagavan is saying, Sakyat Moksha Prapte Bhagavat Tattvasya Tad Bhaktesya Visarena Jnapanaya Navamodhyaya Aravate. So the students who are deeply dedicated to him, have a lot of devotion, they are surrendered to him, and they want quick liberation. Not because of anxiety, but because they're actually ready for it. It's like a bright student who doesn't want to get stuck doing some very introductory mathematics. He wants to do real problems, right? He says, okay, sir, I'm bored with it. Why don't you give me an exercise and find out what am I good at? And that sort of a student, a Vedanta, who says that I'm ready to take a long leap into Vedanta. I want to analyze what Bhagavan is all about. This Upasana is boring for me. For some people, the Jnana Sadhana is boring. And they are not ready for it. But for others, the Upasana meditation can be boring, depending on what is the orientation. So Bhagavan says, Navametu Gya Brahma Nirupanena. In the 9th chapter, Bhagavan is talking about Gya Brahma, the object of knowledge. Not knowledge the way we know a torchlight or a football. This knowledge is knowledge of the self, where you are not different from what you are trying to know. Jnananishtasya gatihi uchyate iti sankshepaha. So Bhagavan is going to talk about this particular Jnana Brahma, or Brahma that needs to be analyzed and known. Tatra vakhyamana jnanaha sutyartha three slokas. So there are these three slokas. First three slokas is for praise of that Jnana Brahma and the Jnana Marga, right? So Bhagavan uvacha idam tu te guhyatamam pravakhyamyanusuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñatva mokhyase subhat. Idam tu te guhyatamam. Te means to bhyam. I'm going to tell you. What am I going to say? Pravakshami. I'm going to tell you. And then he is giving a certain adhikara to Arjuna by mentioning the word anusuyave. You are one who is free from anusuya. What is anusuya? We'll discuss it. Anusuyave, anusuyu, anusuyave. Like we say, gurave. Similarly, anusuyave. Jnanam. I'll tell you two things. Jnanam, but this jnana has been given an adjective, a qualifier. What is that? Vijnana sahitam. So I'm not only going to give you jnana, I'll give you jnana with an with how to notes with it. That is vijnana. Yad jnatva, knowing which, moksha se. So you shall get liberation. You shall be free from all troubles and hurdles and hardships. What is that? Asubhat. What is asubha? This whole cycle of birth and death, these anxieties, frustrations, you are here. Just look at the number of anxieties we are passing through, isn't it, in life? So I'm not saying life per se is bad, because this is the greatest opportunity God has given us to know who we are. That is the best part of it. Rest of it is delusional. I mean, this all can be very attractive, but the only great thing about life, to my mind, when you are reading this and you think about it, is the fact that you have an opportunity to be conscious of who you are, and you can sort of go to that higher level of experience of your own blissful understanding of that Atma Vastu. The rest of it is fine. I mean, it'll come and go. Nothing is permanent. Whether youth or money or anything, even if it's all there with you, we can carry it. Look at Steve Jobs, right? So let's look at the tikas, and then we'll try to do 2-3 slokas today. Idam tute guhyatamam pravakhyami anasuyave jnana vijnana sahitam yadyatva mokshase suhat aham brahma jnana bhakshamanam uktam cha purveshu adhyayeshu tat buddhau sannidhikritya idam iti aha. Tu shabda vishesa nirdharanartha. So tu is saying why, and that many commentators are mentioned, because tu is the bilakshanata, the difference, the significant difference between Dheya Brahma and Jnana Brahma, the process of meditation, the process of self-awareness, which requires analysis. Like in Buddhist school, they have this, in Mahayana, they have this Madhyamika and the Prasangika, highly philosophical, extremely philosophical analysis, because they think that is the ultimate way of discarding the illusion of life. But it requires a lot of intellectual work. So here Bhagavan says this is bilakshana. Therefore, idam tu te tu guhyatamam. I have already told you a very secret science, but I'm going to tell you guhyatamam, even more secret, the top secret thing. Tu, that means saying what I have told you is a very, very difficult thing, which I tell to select people. But this one is even for fewer people. Pravakhyami anasuyave. Okay, so I'm telling jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñatva mokhyase subha. idam brahmagyanam bhakhyamanam uktam cha purveshu adhyayashu tad buddhau sannidhikridya idam iti aha. So I'm mentioning that idam word is mentioned because he's trying to sort of contextualize the new conversation starting in the chapter 9 with a prior reference to all that he has already mentioned about meditation on the Brahman in the previous chapter and even other chapters. He has given different ways to meditate. Therefore, he's saying, bring back those ideas I have shared with you if you want to make sense of what I'm going to tell you in chapter 9. Idamiti aha, tu sabda vishesa nirdhanartha. Idam eva samyak ganam. And this idam is what? This is comprehensive knowledge. What I have told you earlier, is it not comprehensive? Yeah, this is good knowledge, but this is more comprehensive. This is the fuller picture. Okay, samyak jnanam. Why? Sakshat moksha prapti sadhanam. This is the means of getting direct liberation. Now, if you do not know this, direct liberation shall remain a dream. You have to go through the longest process. So it's like if you can afford a flight ticket, you go and board the flight. If you can't, then what do? You'll go by a taxi to the railway station, then go by train. So long, many stops, maybe delays and stuff like that. But that's what it is. Depends on, what you can afford. So here, if you do not afford comprehensive knowledge, then you will still get liberation through the Upasana Marga, but long this process. This is Sakshat Moksha Prapti Sadhanam Vasudeva Sarvamiti. The meditation is what? That Sarvatmaka Bhava. Then you are trying to not meditate, but understand it, to analyze it, okay, through an analytical mind. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Everything is Vasudeva. The Vedantic message of Sarvam, Sarvam, everything that you see here is Vasudeva, Brahma Veda. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma iti. Atma eva idam sarvam. That is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 246. Atma vedam sarvam. So Atma eva, whatever you see is Atma only. Even you see Jada or whatever Chetana, Chara, whatever you see, moving, non-moving, whatever you see. End of the day, what? What is that? That is a manifestation of what? That one Vastu with different names and forms. These are superimpositions. Like there are different film actors will appear on that same few, maybe about say 30, 40, 60, or maybe 100 square feet, right? Or maybe longer. I don't know how big is the film screen. It's maybe huge, right? Depending on the size of the film hall. So if you look at that particular thing, if it's about say 5 meter by 10 meter, that 50 square meters, in that 50 square meters, everything appears if it's a big film hall. Different heroes and heroines and different scenes appear. That particular white space remains the same. Similarly, he's saying Atma eva idam sarvam ekam eva advityam Chandogya Upanishad 6:1 ityadi shruti smritibhyah na anyat. So therefore, you have to go by what is mentioned in different Smriti and Shruti Vakya. Shruti is Veda, Upanishad, Smriti is Puranas. Atha yo anya ये अन्यथातो विदुः अन्यराजानहति क्षयोलोकाः भवन्ति इत्यादि श्रुतिभ्यश्च. And then he's quoting another Upanishad when he's saying that, whosoever doesn't know everything is Atma, however powerful, rich, and intelligent he may be, what happens to that? He'll go to Kshayaloka, because he'll go to some loka, some kind of an existence which has a expiry date, like Swargaloka or whatever, right? Tetu tubhyam guhyatamam, gopyatamam. Guhyatamam means what is gopana, whatever is secretive, what is supposed to be valued a lot. Okay, pravakhyami kathayishyami anasuyave asuya rahitaya, because you are free from any kind of fault finding, any kind of jealousy, any kind of the weaknesses of a person who is extremely egoistic. You're free from those troubles. Therefore, I think you deserve this knowledge. Why? You're not going to use it, to sort of beat your drums and say that you are very wise, because that would be actually stupidity. So Bhagavan says that you are anasuya way, so you're anasuyu. So why he's saying this? Because he knows that he deserves to get this Atma Jnana He's not going to misuse it. He's not going to add to his cap as a feather and be boastful about it. That will be neutralizing whatever the benefit of this Atmagyana is going to be. Asuya Rahitaya. King Tat, what is that? Jnanam. That is that jnana. And what? Kim Visishtam. What sort of a knowledge is that? Vijnana Sahitam. Anubhava Yuktam. This is Vijnana. There are few people have mentioned it as few ways in which they have mentioned. Ramanuja and Abhinavagupta, I think, and I think Sridhara, they have all mentioned Vijnana as Upasana, technology, how to do it, how to actually translate this knowledge, how to get it, the details of it. Whereas some other people here, he's saying Anubhava Sahita. That is also more or less the same, because if you have Jnana, Anubhava is what? Yathartha Jnana, Yathartha Anubhava. So you truly know Brahman is what? So because Sakhyat Aparakyat Brahma, so it is direct perception. And therefore he's saying Anubhava Sahita. That means I will tell you and I'll hold your hands in order to help you realize what that Brahman is. So it's not bookish knowledge, but I have that experience of what Brahma is. I'm not somebody like one of these acharyas, like all we people who are doing, satsanga. We say a lot of things written in the Vedantic texts, but we are still aspirants. I mean, we are not all liberated, are we? No. But Bhagavan is saying this. Bhagavan is himself. He's Sadananda, he's Sachidananda Swarupa. So when he says he brings that whole thing, he knows it. And therefore, coming out of him, this is worthy of being believed and embraced without any doubt. Tad jnanam jnatva, and getting that wealth I'm going to give you, getting that prapya mokshase asubhat. So you shall be free from all kinds of agonies. And what is this agony all about? This agony is about being born and reborn again and again in the cycle of births and deaths on earth, where you are rewarded with a lot of pain and frustration. This is that samsara bandhana. Okay, and therefore he explains this. So how sort of our great Acharya Madhusudana Saraswati sort of makes sense of it. He's saying idam prag bahudha uktam agre. I have mentioned to you several times in earlier chapters in Bhagavad Gita. Bhakshamanam adhuna uchyamanam jnanam sabda pramanakam brahma tattva vishekam te tubhyam prabhakshami. He has already packed it with a lot of adjectives. You have to break them down to make sense of it. Bhakshamana means I am going to tell you. Uchyamana, I'm going to tell you. Adhuna, right now. Prag bahudha uktam agri. I have already mentioned. Prag means before that, I have already mentioned. I'm going to tell you now. Jnanam, sabda pramanakam. Jnana here, can we know about Brahman? And if we know, is it an experience like you are having a chocolate or an ice cream? No. It's not indriyaja jnanam. You cannot get it through your senses. How will you narrate it? I mean, if you are liberated, once you know the Brahman, will you come back to teach? Yes. Otherwise, Guru Parampara will not be there. And if you say that no Brahmagyani teaches, then all the books are written by people who are not Brahmagyani. That's what you will say. So there are some problems. So Guru Parampara, in order to justify the Guru Parampara, is privileged enough to have benefited by the self-realization of the rishis. We agree that self-realized people still teach. Why should they? They teach it for Loka Sangraha. They are not attached to it. And then these texts are sort of delivered to us. Therefore, the easiest way, because you don't come across an Atmagyani every day in the streets, the only way to know what is that Brahman, the only proof we have is the testimony of these great rishis who have seen, Rasyaha Mantra Dashtaraha. So they have seen these truths and they have captured them in sentences in the Upanishads. So that is Sabda Pramana. This is the proof. Testimony is proof. And testimony of whom? Testimony of somebody who is not a cheat, who is a Suddha Sadhu Vyakti, and is a Apta Purusha, self-realized. Jnana Upalabdha. So he has got it, and he's going to tell you this is what it is. And therefore, that particular text is worthy of respect and belief. Sabda Pramanakam, Brahma Tattva Vishayakam. So I'm going to tell you what is written in the Upanishads, what is Sabda Pramanaka, and what is Brahma Tattva Vishayakam. What is the subject matter of what I'm going to tell you? It's about Brahman. Tu Sabdaha Purvadhyaya Uktad Dhyanat Jnanasya Vailakhyanyam Aha. So two sabda that mentioned, you mentioned that, right? Te tu. Idam tu te guhyatamam. I'm going to tell you, however, this one to you. And what to? Because we have dealt with dhyana, dheya brahma. Here it is gheya brahma. So it is much superior to dhyana. Jnana is superior to dhyana. Vailakhyanamaha. Idam eva samyak jnanam sakhyat moksha prapti sadhanam. This is what will give you a direct ticket to liberation, self-knowledge. Not to dhyanam, tasya ajnana nivartakatvad, but not dhyana. Why? Because of jnana, what is the goal of jnana? Ajnana nivartakatvad. Because it will directly, dhyanam, tasya, dhyanasya, अज्ञान अनिवर्तकत्वात्, बिकॉज ध्यान से अज्ञान का that निवृत्ति नहीं होती है. You cannot get rid of your ignorance by being established in deep meditation. There is this subtle difference between the yoga schools of thought and Vedanta. Yoga says that ultimately when you remove everything, you go to that ultimate stage and you are liberated. Vedanta says, yeah, but what have you got? Have you known the self? So it's very important that you look at the Upanishads. And when you're going to that high stage, if you have the added advantage of direct perception of the self, with the help of these Upanishadic words, Vakyas, then there is no coming back. Otherwise, yoga is Purusha Tantra. Kartum, kartum, anyatha kartum, sakya. So you may do it, you may not do it, you may do it in different ways. Because this is Purusha Tantra. It is dependent on your own interest, and therefore Yoga Shastra it kind of goes to multiple experiences. Vedanta takes you to one single realization where all knowledge kind of drops off and you go to that pure state of being. That's what he's mentioning here. Okay? Tasya ajnana anivartakatvat. Tattu antakarana suddhi dvaram eva. Dvarat idam द्वारा idam eva jnanam sampadya kramena moksham janati yuktam. So that tattvataha, so and then tattu tattvataha, and then tattu, that particular thing, that particular he's saying tattu antakarana suddhi dvara. So what you do is that even if to sort of meditate on dhyana, do you want to do dhyana or you want to get jnana? Can you do Jnana Yoga without doing anything? No, Bhagavan has clarified that in chapter 4, 5, 6, he has already clarified, right? First, you have to do Nishkama Karma, Antakarna Suddhi, Ishwararpana Vidya, then do Upasana, then we are coming to Jnana. Therefore, he's saying that, no, when I'm talking about Jnana, doesn't mean you will not do all those things. No, you will graduate. But instead of getting stuck with Upasana, once you have Antakarna Suddhi, when you do this, then Jnana Sampadya Kramena Mukhyam Janeti. So the earlier phases, there is a longish process, Niskama Karma, then Antakarna Suddhi, then Upasana, then Dhyana, you'll go and get stuck there. And here, then you'll get Jnana in Brahmaloka. Here, doing this analysis, once you have Nishkama Karma, Antakarna Suddhi, you are ready for Jnana Yoga, then you get direct moksha. So you don't have to do the Upasana. Kidrisham Jnanam, what kind of Jnana is that? Guhya Tamam, it's very deep. It's very secret. Gopanya Tamam. So it's very difficult. You should not reveal it to anyone. Why? Others will not understand. Ati rahasyatva, because it's very mysterious. He's kind of giving a mystic twist to the imagination of Brahman, saying that this is not very simple geography sort of thing. I'll tell you it is there and you get it. So there is a kind of mystical side to it. And therefore, you language, you use a lot of language. But remember, what Bhagavad Gita hints again and again is that you need to have that intuitive insight. You have to have that, that antardrishti to reach there, which you will not get through language. You do all language, then they drop off. Then you start thinking about it. You go beyond language, then you realize the inner meaning of it. Okay, tato vijnana sahitam brahmanuva paryantam. Vijnana sahitam means till you realize that Brahma jnana. Idrisam ati rahasyam aham api aham rahasyam api aham Shishya gunadhikyad vakhyami. Why do I have to tell this to you? Because I love you. You are one of my superior students. Shishya gunadhikyad, because one of the bright students I have. So I'm going to tell you Tubhyam Anusuyas. Ha, theek hai, but you know that particular has. That is Asuya. They'll always find some weakness. And they do that. Asuya gunesu dosa drishtihi. Tada aviskarnadi phala. So that is what is, you know, Anusuya way. Okay, then there is one mention. Idrisam atirhasyam api aham sishya gunadhikyad vakhyam usaya gunesu drusu dusti tada aviskarnadi phala. Then he will speak a sentence in order to convey what Asviya is. So he'll give you an illustration. That is Abhinaya. So what is that Abhinaya he's saying? Sarvada ayam atma aishwarya ख्यापनेन आत्मानं प्रशंसति मत्पुरस्ताद इत्येवं रूपः तद्रहिताय. What is that Asuya? In Asuya is like he's talking to someone else. Then what he says? पता है जब बात करो ना वो अपने बारे में बात करता है. And you are very irritated. So why are you irritated? Because you are intolerant of whatever he says about himself. And what is the Abhinaya saying? Do you know, whenever I talk to him, he is going to talk great things about himself in front of me. The purpose is to show me as someone small. And he sort of tries to pull my leg. That is the Abhinaya. That is how he's saying Asviya works. So you find faults with everybody. So if someone is a great dancer, you know, she's a very good dancer. What does the Asviya, you know, person who has Asviya says? Oh, really? She dances? Do you know? Her dad is very powerful. And then she's very well connected. And that's how she gets a chance to dance on stage in all important functions. You cancel that person out. That is what is Asviya. He's saying, Tad Rahitaya, you are not like that. Why? You are a brave soldier. You can hit and win a battle against anyone. You are very handsome. But even Urvashi could not sort of seduce you. And you are Vairagi Purusha. You won over Draupadi. Mother says, share your food equally. Without telling her you have one particular Swayambara, you just agreed, yes, mom. So you are a complete Sanyami, you are a Vairagi, and you, Dhananjaya, you won a lot of gold in the war during Ashwamedha, but you gave it to the brother. You didn't say, this is mine, I have won it. So you have complete Vairagya. So he was actually a great saintly person, Arjuna, isn't it? That is why Bhagavan chooses him. Why not Yudhishthira? Why not anyone else? Why Arjuna? You know, Arjuna offered his wife to all. But the curious question is, did Yudhishthira say no? They could have all jolly well said no. You know, just look at this whole story. Arjuna is actually the most spiritual person, actually, if you look at it. And that's why Bhagavan chooses him. Because he's the ideal man who can carry the message across for whole of humanity. He's saying, Tad Rahitaya Anena Arjava Sanyamau Api. Arjava means straightforwardness. That's Saralata. And Sanyama, that self-control, both the things, Shishya Guno Bhakhyatau. So he has both that. Very straightforward guy and is very self-controlled. Punah Kidrisam Gyanam Yat Gyatva Prapya Moksha Se Sadhya Eva Sansara Bandhanat Asubhas Sarva Dukkha Hetoha. So why is it Visishta Jnana? Because if you get this, you will be free from the Sansara Bandhana, the entrapment of the cycle of births and deaths that you suffer on earth. You're going to be free from that cycle. Puna tad abhimukhyaya tad jnanam stuti. So he's kind of praising that knowledge because he wants to motivate Arjuna to pay attention. So he's creating a context, and his verse number 2 starts there. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitra Midamuttamam Pratakhyavagamam Dharmyam Shumukham Kartumabhyayam. Raja Vidya. You know, there's a particular grammatical rule. So it's actually Raja Vidya means it's not the king's knowledge system or anything. Raja Vidya here means actually it's Raja among the Vidyas. It's like Gajadanta. So you're essentially saying that he has long, right? He has got this long teeth. But then actually that ivory thing. And then what you're saying, actually Gaja should be there, you know, but you just saying first. Okay. So he's saying Raja Vidya Sarvasang Vidyanam Raja. So it's Vidya Raja actually. Raja Vidya Sarvasang Vidyanam Raja Sarva Vidya Sarva Avidya Nasakatva. Because this particular Vidya, this Brahma Vidya, when you get it, Sarva Avidya means ignorance. It will destroy all your faulty understanding about who you are. Vidyantarasya avidyaka desa virodhitva. So if you sort of, if you have anything else, whatever that, then that will destroy that particular thing. Because just imagine, can you have a police, can you have a, what do you call it, mongoose and a snake at the same place? No, they will fight. Can you have darkness and light at the same place? You cannot have. If you bring in a lamp, darkness goes. Similarly, at the same location, you cannot have vidya and avidya. Vidya is like light, avidya is like darkness. Therefore, he says vidyantarasya avidya ekadesa viruddhita. They cannot be at the same place. Jnana and ajnana cannot coexist. So when this jnana comes, it drives away ajnana. The way light drives away darkness. And it doesn't have to do any work to fight darkness. It just has to express itself. As soon as light finds its expression, darkness loses its existence. It's like that. So there is nothing called ajnana is like an enemy that you want to fight like mongoose and snake, nothing of that sort. The presence of light itself denies presence to darkness. The presence of truth denies presence to falsehood. It's in that way. Tatha Raja Guhyam, Sarvesam Guhyana Raja, all the secret sciences, the mystic sciences we have. What is the superior most, that king among all those Guhya Tamasing, the secret sciences, that is Raja Guhyam. Aneka Janma Krita Sukrita Sadhyatvena Bahuvi Ajnanatatvat. So, this particular thing is Guhyatama. Why? Not many people can ever come ever close to it, anywhere close to it. Because a lot of people have their papas and punyas. Even if you have a lot of sadhana, and Bhagavan says only some people who have done a lot of sukrita, they are the only ones whose eyes are sharp enough to focus attention on me. Others will not even recognize me. They will not even admit Bhagavan is there. Because their antakarana is not pure enough. They haven't done enough punya karma. Their bad karmas will prevent them from loving me. That's what Bhagavan says. So forget about Bhagavan and theology. Even if you look at it spiritually, philosophically, it's like this. The subtlest of the truths is hardest for somebody to recognize, whose mind is kind of cluttered with a lot of impurities. So when you remove these old impurities, old impressions, the mind is transparent, clean, sharp, and insightful enough to be able to focus on something which is very subtle as a truth. Otherwise, that truth will not appeal to that mind, right? So that is what he is saying. Aneka janma krita sukrita sadhyatvena. Because you have done punya, a lot of things, then a lot of people can't even know. Bahuvihi ajñatatvad. A lot of people don't even get it. Only for a few people it's known. Rajadantaditvad upasarjanasya paranipataha. Rajadanta. So you are essentially trying to say that Danta Raja, that is the elephant, because it's Dantanang Raja in the sense that people who have teeth, he is the king himself. But we say Rajadanta, that Paranipata. So that Danta word, which is actually inferior, should be pronounced first and then Mukhya should follow. But here we are doing Paranipata. Same rule is being followed when we are saying Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. Because we want to say Vidya Raja, Guhya Raja, something like that. Paranipataha. Pavitram idamam uttamam. That and he's also going to explain why he's saying so. Prayasthitehi kinchit ekam eva papam nivartate. Do you know? Is a beautiful thing saying. Why he's saying Pavitram idam uttamam? Because एक पाप से भी छुटकारा पाने के लिए बहुत प्रायश्चित करना पड़ता है. You have to do a lot of prayaschitta karma to get rid of one bad karma. But Atma Jnana, look at it, its pavitrata, how great it is. Once you have got Atma Jnana, all previous papas are gone. It washes away all Sanchita karma. We know this, right? Once you have Atma Jnana, all Sanchita karma is gone. Prarabdha karma will stay, will not affect you. You will suffer, but you will not really suffer. Why? You have Atma Jnana. Future work, Agami karma, destroyed. No Sanchita karma, millions and millions of birds, all the loaded works, they all are washed away. And all the and Agami karmas have become infructuous. They become, there is no, you will never be touched by them. That's why Papa Punya, by the Gurus who is Atmagyani, it goes to his Nindakas, his Prasansakas, his Sevakas. His Punya will go to people who help him. His Papas will go to people who hurt him or do calumniation. Right? That is how you will get it. And that is about Agami karma. Sanchita karma destroyed, washed away. What remains? Prarabdha karma. But he shall not experience any hardship in going through them because he doesn't identify with the body anymore. That's what we have done in both Atmabodha and Tattvabodha. That's what he's mentioning. That Sanchita karma, it destroys, and therefore it is Pavitram and Uttama. But we have crossed the time and we will take it forward tomorrow. So I'll stop here, and you have any questions you can ask. Otherwise, we'll do the Santi Mantra.
Om Pranam Swamiji.
Yeah.
Swamiji,